Hey everybody, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
Welcome to the podcast for Curiosity Continuum.
Curiosity Continuum is an industry-innovating, non-traditional company passionate about growing wisdom in the next generation.
We are the essential bridge between the analog and digital worlds by building collaborative communities that unleash the power of adaptive expertise and innovation needed to thrive in the 21st century.
We combine and mix essential elements needed to empower people to succeed in new ways, not possible outside of a creative, thoughtful, diverse community of fellow curious people.
Follow us on your favorite podcast app to receive notifications of new content. If you like what you hear and want to dive deeper, visit us at curiositycontinuum.com. Thanks for tuning in. Let's start the conversation. So, Josh, I had somebody come up to me. This is a while back now, but I want to title this episode Micro Moments of Influence.
Okay.
And maybe like micro moments of influence, like macro impact or something like that.
Something fun.
There's something that I come up with later after I've thought the title name. But this is what it was. There was a person that came up to me and they thanked me. And I was like, well, like what for? I didn't know.
Right.
And they said, well, there's this one time in church, like years ago, that like you prayed this thing for me. You know, you prayed with me on this.
Sure.
And it's like, it like meant so much. And then life turned around. I just wanted to thank you for that thing. What you spoke was so impactful. I'm like, I'm so glad. No freaking idea.
You had no
I had
idea
no
what
idea
it-
what
what
I
it-
prayed. I mean,
what it
like,
was.
with
Okay.
them. I mean, like, it's always my honor, like, to pray with somebody. Like, that's great.
Right.
You think I remember what I prayed? No, I didn't.
So, like, how your small moment with them had a big influence. For you, it was small, but for them was large.
Yeah. I would have said, okay, yep, that was great. I mean, and please don't like hear me like disregard stuff.
Right.
But it was like, to me, it was like, I'm happy to do it for this moment.
Right.
And sincerely mean it. And then I moved on. And I didn't think a second thing about it ever.
No, and I think that's common, right? Because, and it's not like the, thoughts and prayers, whatever thing. It's really like, for you, it was an easy thing to do, even though you really and sincerely meant it at the time. So it's not in disrespect. But other things pulled your direction. And for you, it was just over. It was the thing, and it was over.
And, when we talk about contextual awareness, I think oftentimes I have psyched myself out in the past, especially to go, okay, this is the moment right here where I know I'm going to be the most influential. Or they're going to listen to my words because it's going to just be freaking awesome. And
Never happened.
Sure, but I mean, maybe sometimes, but those aren't the moments that have stuck with people.
No, and I mean, I think it's similar to like when, like something like your dad would tell you, like in passing, that you remember, and like when you bring it up to your dad years later, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like that's happened to my dad and I. Like I've said, Dad, I really remember that one time you told me whatever, and he's like, I don't remember that at all. And he's like, so I think this really drives home the point is to be influenced. You influence people with your small things that you do. And small things mean a lot.
This is actually like, if we think about even like how celebrities work kind of in culture, right?
Right, which I've had enough of it, but
right. Yeah. How many millions of dollars did you give to something, right? Or they did things and they were rude to somebody one time. It's like, they're a terrible person. Those little moments matter. But, those little moments matter because like you're kind of constantly tending the store in terms of your character, in terms of being aware of others and things,
Right.
If you're unaware, you still impact people. So like, that's kind of like the message, like regardless of what you're doing, or it's going to impact somebody in some way, shape or form. We never live in a bubble fully, ever.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have or influence you think you have. Like even like, I don't even know if the term social media influencer is accurate, right? It is in a way that the corporations see you that way because, in the way you're an influencer is you have a lot of people that listen to you. Now, yes, that can directly revenue cause something or, revenue positive or negative from that person. But is that really like a lasting long-term thing? Or is it just that temporary bump? Usually it's not. Like if you look back at somebody will be, a celebrity will be hired to endorse something and it's over and it's gone. Like Christopher Walken he's done Kia ads for like 4 years now or 3 years at the Super Bowl. But I doubt he drives a Kia in real life. And if he does, they're paying him a lot of money to do it. And then does that equate to actually like sales of Kias? Like, I don't think it does.
Yeah. It'd be an interesting thing to see.
The business point of it is different than the personal side of it.
Right.
So like the personal side is like you have this interaction with somebody. It can be small. It might only be 5 minutes long or less. But it like to them, it was like life-changing impact. And maybe they equated what happened to them that you cared enough to do it. But really, maybe they just changed themselves and didn't even realize it.
And maybe because they listened to you at that moment. And
right.
honestly, you could have been the 100th pebble on top of the pile that made it like breakthrough. And that's where I really think about when you say something to somebody, like you may be the first person to say, and they go, that person's never going to change. They didn't listen to me. Well, you might have been the first seed out of like 1,000 seeds that need to follow thereafter in order for that person to kind of like have that moment.
And I think that happens with a lot of things because people are very resistant to like change something based on just especially it's something that's difficult for them to do, but also something that's like, oh, somebody just told me to do that. I'm not going to do it. But like you said, if you're like the first person to tell them that, okay, but what if now like unrelated thing in their lives, somebody says something very similar, and now maybe they start perking up a little bit.
Yeah. I guess if I think about those little moments too, like some people probably never would have known what that meant to me. And as I thank people, I've had a chance to thank some of those folks now years later, and they're like, "Man, I never knew. Like, thank you so much. Like to come back and say that, because and they realize that like what they did mattered."
And it's interesting because sometimes like you think you might not interact with those people again, but then they happen to come back around.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I just wanted to tell you, that one thing you did actually really helped me.
Let me tell you something, folks. Like I know, Josh, when I've needed, I'm like, I am a worthless person. Like, what have I done to do anything like of any significance? And you hear something like that, it's like, man, it mattered. Like the thing I didn't even remember happened impacted somebody. Right. And I always want to impact people in a way where they're being thoughtful about their life and existence, that they become like reflective and thoughtful about others and kind of like the situation surrounding them and stuff like that, right? I always want them to be reflective. But it may be something that I just toss out sometime and I wouldn't even know it. So I think the micro moments come when like you will never probably perceive that moment. If you do, like you'll know, like that's a major moment. Like you have those salient moments. Like,
right.
And this was my opportunity. It's like, yes. There's all these other times when you're not aware.
Right.
And you wouldn't even have put importance on it, but somebody
did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's can be in anything, really. But it's also a good reminder to people that somebody is always paying attention to you. Whether you think they're not, they are. And especially if you have younger people, like kids around you, they're watching what you do.
And they know.
But like, so the thing that you do that doesn't really, to you, might just seem like flippant, to them is really like, can be really big. So, and it might not even be something you say. It might be something you're doing and a behavior you're doing. And it might get, whether it's good or bad. There's people that do stuff you're probably not proud of, that you've done stuff, So it's like, I think everybody has regrets on stuff they've done. But that's important reminder, remember that like what you do matters to like the greater good around you, especially, and in people in your life. I mean, personally, that's what I feel.
Let's just leave it here.
Sure. Let's do it.
We'll put a comma here, folks. Until next time, this is Brian.
This is Josh.
For Curiosity Continuum.